Tired villain.
A tired villain. Most likely to a podcast by Donors Choose.
Most likely to be a director.
Most likely to be an engineer.
Most likely to be a journalist.
A doctor.
An astronaut.
A best-selling author.
Welcome to Most Likely To, a podcast presented by Donors Choose. We talk to some of the world's greatest minds to find out how they became who they are today. If you can see it, you can be it. Today, I'm excited to introduce you to Ashleigh Hairston. Ashleigh is an Emmy-nominated writer, actor, producer, and voice actor from Seattle, Washington. She's worked on shows like Craigs of the Creek as the voice of Wren, and on Nickelodeon's The Fairly OddParents as the voice of Hazel Wells. And just a couple years ago, Ashleigh debuted at Comic-Con as the voice of Babs Bunny in the Warner Brothers revival, Tiny Toons Looniversity. Ashleigh is also a graduate of Howard University, and as you'll hear, Ashleigh is so talented. On Most Likely To, it's Ashleigh Hairston. Okay, so let's start at the very beginning, because I'm really curious to know what you were like as a little girl.
Oh, when I was a little girl, I was extremely curious, extremely imaginative, extremely wild and free. I have a lot of memories of my mom and our whole family. When we would go school shopping or when we would go anywhere shopping, really, I would be, running off in the store by myself. And I have vivid memories of being called over the intercom, at like department stores and grocery stores and stuff like that to, find Ashleigh Hairston, come back to your mother, meet us at the checkout stand, that kind of thing. So I was very much an explorer, very much a creative, independent, free spirit growing
It
up.
sounds like you missed an opportunity to voice over Dora the Explorer there.
Exactly. Yeah. I'm the youngest of 5 too, and the age range is like really, we're all very spread out. And so a lot of my siblings are much older than me. And then my sister and I were 4 years apart. And she, wasn't the biggest fan of me as a kid because she thought I was weird. And so, I was just kind of left alone to make my own friends and make my own fun. And, I had a good time.
I know how that is. Being a little sister is tough at times, especially to an older sister. They can be cruel.
She was so cool. We became friends in college finally, but
same here.
Super close. Yeah.
Same here. What did you think you wanted to be when you grew up?
I always knew I wanted to be an actress. Yeah. I started out in Christmas plays and like church plays growing up. My dad is a pastor, so I was also, part of the first family, in our church. And so we would always put on, different productions, and I always got to be the lead role, not just because I was a pastor's daughter, but because I, actually enjoyed performing and being on stage. And so, yeah, I started out very young acting and learning, memorizing lines. And I remember, 6th and 7th and 8th grade, I, auditioned and performed in my school play productions. And then that went on into high school as well. So I've always sort of been, wanting to be on TV. I remember specifically too watching, I'm really inspired by like 90s sitcoms and 90s family TV shows. That's what I watched growing up. It's like Full House and Family Matters, and another show that I won't name because of reasons, but it was based on a Black family called the Huxtables. That was a show that I grew up watching. And I remember when that show went off air, like finally, the season finale ended, I cried. I was sad. I remember calling my cousin and being like, oh no, they're gone. This family is gone and I'll never see them again. And she had to explain to me that they're actors and they'll come back. This is what they do. They leave and then they come back, and they're never, they're not going anywhere. They're
and then there were spinoffs of that show.
So there were spinoffs. But that's when I knew for sure. I said, oh, I want to be a part of that family. I want to do what they do. I want to be an actor.
Gotcha. I know that you grew up in Bellevue, Washington. What was school like in Bellevue for you? What was that experience like?
It was a great childhood. I loved my schools. I had a lot of friends. I was always very social and likable, but I was also the only Black kid in all of my classes. I grew up in Bellevue, Washington, which is just outside of Seattle, Washington. And yeah, I grew up, being an only, the only Black girl in my classes. I never had a Black teacher growing up, that kind of thing. And so it was interesting because at church, with my family, we would go to church, and our church was in the south end of Seattle, Washington. So it was a predominantly Black church. But then during the weekdays, I would go to school and I would be this, only Black girl in all of my classes and stuff. And so that was a challenge for me because it ended up being, very much like living in two different worlds. I like to tell people also that when I was in middle school, I had two different screen names for AOL Instant Messenger. I had one screen name for my Black friends at church. That was Crystal Light 7. And then I had a screen name for my white friends at school, and that was Acton Ash 17. And I would come home every day after school, and I would literally log in and out between both of those screen names, why I felt like they had to be separate, why I felt like they had to, I'd have different friends lists for each. And it's not like I would, talk differently or do different things on each. I was doing the same things, but I just had two separate lives. And so pair that also with like, growing up in church and stuff, and like, having to always present and be on and be presentable and be an example for, other kids in the congregation. It was a challenge for me personally growing up.
I feel that. I had similar experiences where I was often the only person of color or the only this, and always feeling like an outsider. So I feel like your two screen name thing really resonates because it's like it's your survival mechanism to actually be yourself in one situation and be the other side of yourself in another. I feel like my motto this year is like integration. Like how do I bring my whole self to where I am. So how did you get into this profession? You knew you wanted to be an actor when you were younger. How did you transition actually to the working world, and where did you start?
Well, I went to school for theater. I went to Howard University, and I studied,
HBCU.
yes, a
Nice.
historically Black college and university. Yeah. I went to Howard and I majored in theater arts with a specialization in acting. And I got a degree and then moved out to Los Angeles in 2012. I always wanted to move to New York. That was like my big dream. I wanted to live in New York and do
You can
Broadway.
still do it. Come on over to the east side.
That was always my big dream. And I tried to move to New York after college. I tried twice and it did not work out. And then the third try after I graduated, I was like, maybe I'll try Los Angeles instead. I shipped all of my stuff there. My car was in Seattle. So I packed up my car, got my car, took my two best friends, and we did a road trip down from Seattle to Los Angeles. And yeah, that was February 12th, 2012. Right when I got to Los Angeles, I started doing sketch and improv comedy. There was a improv theater right down the street from where I lived, so it was perfect. It was walking
Wait,
distance.
can you tell us what is improv comedy?
Oh,
Like
sure.
where do people see improv, and what is it like?
The most well-known example for improv is a show called Whose Line Is It Anyway? And so it's basically making up things on the spot, as opposed to like a Saturday Night Live, for instance, which is sketch comedy. It's written, it's pre-written, there's writers involved, and then it involves actors who are memorizing those lines. Whereas improv, you just get up on stage, you get a suggestion from the audience, and you say whatever comes out of your mouth. It can usually be done with as little as two people. I've seen one person improv shows before, or, mostly performed in groups of like 6 or 7 or 8 people.
What was like the scariest moment or the most embarrassing moment that you had on stage that you can
Many.
I want to hear like one story.
I'm getting chills thinking about it because
Oh no.
It took me, I would say, it took me 8 years to feel confident and be good at improv. So in college at Howard, it was a very strict theater program. So if you did not memorize your lines, if you were not off book, if you were not, serving
Prepared.
and
Yeah.
prepared in every performance,
Yeah.
you weren't considered prepared or well, doing well. And
Mhm.
I got that a lot. I actually struggled a lot in college because I was a kid and I wasn't disciplined yet in my craft. So when I got to Los Angeles and I learned this art form where it doesn't matter what you say, that's when I was like, oh, this is where I belong. This is much more conducive to my personality and just
Free
energy and
spirit.
free
Yeah.
spirit, all of that. My first show, I remember my team was called Buick Grand National. And our first show was at Flappers Comedy Theater in Burbank, which is like a well-known, like very famous theater where tons of like stand-up comedians have performed. And why we got a show there, I don't know, but I just stayed on the back wall, meaning like the back of the wall, and in improv, they teach you not to stand on the back wall because that's, you know, you want to be confident, you want to be ready, you want to be out there ready to perform. And if you're hugging the back wall, you can't do that. So I was a hugger of the back wall. I would stay there because that's where it was safe. I didn't want my other teammates to, see me or pick me or, I literally didn't want them to make eye contact with me because then they would pull me in for a scene. And if I didn't know what was going on, then I wouldn't be ready for it. So yeah, that was, one of the scarier shows I remember, but there were many. They were all scary.
They were all scary. Oh. And then what was your first acting job ever? And looking back on it now, was there anything that you might have learned from that experience?
My first acting job, I'm sure this is incorrect, but I was a background actor for a movie called Salt. So I started acting in Washington, D.C., which is not known for, TV and film acting, but they do a lot of industrials and a lot of like political ads and commercials and things like that. And then they do like background, any kind of film that's like, you know, uh, politics, dealing with politics, they would shoot there. So I got to be a background actor in the movie Salt. It was featuring Angelina Jolie, and I got to watch her on set, and that was really cool because she was huge at the time. She'll always be huge, but like I was like, oh my God, it's Angelina Jolie, and I loved being a background actor because a lot of times you get to just sit and watch
And watch.
acting. Yeah,
Yeah.
you get to watch and observe. And so I did that. I used to travel up to New York and take the Chinatown bus for like 25 bucks.
I've taken that bus. Yep.
It's the best. They
I
run
know
all
that
day
bus.
long. Yep. It's a bumpy ride, but you get
Mm-hmm.
there, and so I would take the Chinatown bus and I would do background acting jobs in New York as well.
Mm.
So I did one there. I remember called the Investment Bureau. No, the Adjustment Bureau with Matt Damon.
Mm.
Matt Damon. So I'm in that movie too as a background actor. And I remember it was his birthday and like the cast and like director, all they brought out a birthday cake for Matt Damon and we all got to celebrate and sing happy birthday to him. So those were like a
Amazing.
few of my like very first, acting jobs. Um, and they were very cool. Yeah, I loved observing actors and just seeing how they conducted themselves on set, how they treated others, how they observed their work when they were watching back scenes with the directors, how they took direction. Yeah, it was always fascinating to me.
And speaking of how they treat each other, I always think of acting as this super competitive dog eat dog type of world. Have
Mhm.
you ever struggled with, self confidence or believing in yourself that you're going to make it one day?
Oh, absolutely. All the time and still do. I don't know if that'll ever go away. I struggled with self-confidence up until I would say 2021. I got into therapy and I started identifying where those voices were coming from.
Mm-hmm.
And now I'm able to squash them immediately because I know they're not true. I am amazing. I am funny. I've studied acting. I know what I'm doing. I'm a great performer. People love watching me on stage. I have great stage presence. I light up a room. I light up the screen. All of those things I did not believe previously.
I mean,
But it
but
took
yes,
time.
you are. That's
It,
amazing. You have become such a renaissance woman of like
thank you.
animation and you know the voice acting, the writing, all the
Yeah,
producing. So
it
yes, you
is.
are all those things.
Thank you. Thanks so much.
It's an accomplishment. What is the coolest part about being a voice actor?
Oh, the coolest part about being a voice actor is, well, one is that you just get to go in, dressed however.
that
It's very easy.
that is pretty cool. Like there's no like hair, makeup, clothes, doesn't really
No,
matter.
nope. You get to go in and you say, "Here I am today," and nobody cares, no one's looking. So that's pretty fun about it. I also love that it is acting. I did study to be an actor, and so while you're not on camera, you're still having to emote and act. And I think that that is what a lot of people who want to become voice actors forget. That voice acting is acting. They say, "Oh, I can do impressions. Oh, I can make my voice sound high pitch or low pitch or, that kind of thing." But it's like, no, you have to be, acting as well in these scenes. And I love to improvise. My background in improv has really helped me in the in the booth.
I'm actually curious. How do you protect your voice? Because I guess if you ever got sick, like your day is shot, right?
Yes.
Like, are you like a Mariah Carey diva where you can't talk for like a week and you have to drink only like lemon water? Or I don't even know what she does, but I imagine it's a very stringent routine. Like, what's in your routine, and what are some of the practices that you have to do?
That is very a great question. It's scary. Losing your voice is scary. And I have done it multiple times. I've been sick and I've had to call out of, records. I know now from experience, I can't do any, amusement parks. Halloween is always rough when I'm, doing voiceovers because I love to get really involved and active in scary stuff. I love to be scared. I love horror. So, and I lose my voice very quickly. So
Mm.
I know, if I'm going to be, at a convention or if I'm going to be talking to a lot of people or if I'm going to be going to an amusement park, I can't do any records until like maybe a week later just to give my voice time to get back to normal.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it's very scary. I don't have, well, you just keep honey and lemon and hot water on hand. That's how you can, nurse yourself back to life, nurse your voice and your vocal cords back to life. But yeah, my vocal warm-ups when I'm in the car, I usually sing.
Hi, I'm Hazel Delgado from the Bronx, New York, and I want to know if you can give us a taste of some of the vocal exercises you use to warm up.
Yeah, it's mostly just like moving my mouth around. Yeah, 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 yeah. Hello, hi, and then I go into character usually. But it's really just like warming up my mouth so that words don't sound clunky. Clunk. Yeah, 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 that kind of thing. I'm not like a
Wow.
"Hey, my momu" person. I'm not that person, but yeah, it's mostly just singing and hello, trying different voices. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Projecting that kind of thing.
Oh, I love it. I love it. And I'm so excited. I would love for you to flex some of your vocal talent if you don't mind.
Oh,
So I'm going to share a voice and would
okay.
love for you to say, most likely to a podcast by Donors Choose in that voice. Okay. So the first one I've got for you is sassy toddler girl.
Okay. Uh, most likely to a podcast by donors choose.
Oh my goodness, this is so great. Okay, my next one for you is Parisian.
Like physically involved too. That's where
Yes, I love it. I'm
where-
seeing this.
That's where
That's
the
like,
acting part comes in, because like
yeah.
if you're auditioning in your booth, like you should be sweating by the end of your recording.
Oh, wow. Tired villain.
A tired villain. Most likely to a podcast by donors choose.
I loved Tiny Toons when I was younger, so I'm super excited for this one. If you can voice it over as Babs Bunny from Tiny Toons Looniversity.
Oh, yeah. Buster, most likely to a podcast by donors choose.
Amazing. Okay, and then finally, another show I love, Craig of the Creek.
Yeah.
If you could voice it over as Ren from Craig of the Creek.
Oh, yes. Okay, Red. Science! Okay. Most likely to a podcast by donors choose. Science!
Yay! Amazing. Thank you so much. This is probably the most fun episode we have shot yet.
Yay.
I love it. I love it. I love it. Okay. You are also a writer. You mentioned that a little bit earlier. How does your voice acting experience inform the way that you approach your writing?
Ooh, that's a great question. It's both. Like my voice acting informs the writing, and then the writing also informs the voice acting. It's like these two different muscles and they're working together. It's so interesting. But yeah, for instance, for the Fairly OddParents, A New Wish, which is the show that I'm currently co-executive producer on and co-story editor and a writer and also the voice of Hazel Wells.
I mean, what don't you do? That's amazing.
Thanks. I'm very excited. It's out right now. If anybody wants to watch it on Nickelodeon, 6 p.m., Monday through Thursday. But yeah, so with a show like that, when I started on that show, I was approached by Nickelodeon. I was a head writer at the time on a show called Jessica's Big Little World at Cartoon Network. That was a preschool animated series. They approached and they said, we have this show that we're looking to make. We want to do a reboot of the Fairly OddParents. Would you be interested? There's a potential to co-executive produce and write and maybe voice act. And I was like, yes. I had built a family at Craig of the Creek and Cartoon Network. So Jessica's Big Little World is a spinoff of Craig of the Creek, which is the show that I started staff writing on and also was a voice actor. But I had built a family with that show. And so I was, reluctant to leave that family because I felt so, safe there and they had given so much to me. But I was like, this is an opportunity of a lifetime. So, I got to take it. So I went there and I started on started development on the show. I started working on the Bible. So a Bible for a TV show is basically where you write a document that includes a breakdown of all of the characters that you'll see over the course of the season, all of the environments, locations, maybe a list of different episode ideas, basically a summary of what's going to happen for the entire season of a show. And so I started developing that, and that was really cool because we were, Nickelodeon knew that they wanted to bring the show back. They knew they wanted a new God Kid. They knew they wanted Cosmo and Wanda to come back, which are the two main characters as well. And they knew that they wanted to this new God Kid to be a person of color. And so I got to come in and help create this new character. And I got to put a lot of my own experience into Hazel. Her name's Hazel Wells. And my co-showrunner, Lindsay K. she's also my writing partner on that show. We both were really excited to dig into what makes Hazel, excited, what makes her scared, what's she afraid of, what are her insecurities, all of that. And so putting all those, different character traits into this character, I knew what I experienced growing up. And I wasn't really thinking at the time about performance because I hadn't auditioned yet. Also, I did audition for this role. But so when I went in to audition for it, I kind of had an upper hand, I guess, it being,
Right.
helping
You helped create her. Yeah.
the character. Exactly. So already, my co-show runners, Dave Stone and Lindsay Kaitai, they kind of already had Hazel, my voice in mind for Hazel, just because I had been pitching her, and I'd been talking about episodes featuring her, and they were like, oh, well, we hear your voice when we think of Hazel.
So they were hearing your voice acting was influencing the writing, but the writing helped you get the job because you already knew the character and you were able to really have a well-formed voice by the time you audition. That's amazing. Yes. Okay, so if a student listening was interested in a career in voice acting, what are one or two simple things they should do now in their school years to prepare for this career path?
Sure. If you want to be a voice actor, start taking acting classes, start taking improv classes if you've got them accessible. Start researching what kind of voice actor you want to be. Start researching what classes you can take to prepare for that specific style of voice acting. I would say start watching TV shows and watching, different series that you like or that you're inspired by, seeing different characters you like and just noticing what you like about them. Following voice actors on social media, following voice actors that you like, just kind of, supporting them, and seeing what they post and if they post about their journey, just kind of, making a connection there. Yeah, that's the main thing right now. I wouldn't worry when you're just starting out about, a voiceover reel or, getting an agent or anything like that. That'll come, in time. But I think right now, in the beginning stages, if you want to be a voice actor, really focusing on the craft, I think is important.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And if you could go back in time and speak to your younger self, what would you tell young Ashleigh about, her career or career advice?
Oh, young Ashleigh, I would tell myself it's okay to be weird. I would tell myself it's okay. You're not doing anything wrong. It's okay to mess up. You are funny. You are talented. You are unique and you are different, and embrace that. Embrace the things that make you different and make you feel uncomfortable. Embrace that.
That was voice actor, writer, and producer Ashleigh Hairston. Hey, thanks so much for listening. Make sure to click the follow button on your podcast app so you never miss a new episode. We are at Most Likely To Show on YouTube and at mostlikely2.show on Instagram and TikTok. Tag us in your posts about the show. This show is about exploring the journeys of the people you care about, so let us know who you're interested in hearing from by sending in your request at podcast@donorschoose.org or DM us on Instagram